Servant Season 3 Episode 6 is one of the better episodes of Servant since the creation of the series itself. Spoilers ahead, let's break it down. So what we saw go down in this episode was Sean's dinner party going all the way south while Leanne just completely tears down the poor woman from Sean's church by using her past that she looked up, with her maybe also being a victim of abuse from her mother both physically and spiritually through the excuse of religious extremism, and instead of taking her own personal history into account to see what this woman suffered, just like Leanne herself, she decides to use this understood knowledge to break the woman down and get her to back away entirely from the family. We see a colder side of Leanne in this episode, from this and not understanding what having someone like Nancy around means for Sean's guilt and his way of dealing with it, instead telling him that she, not God, is the reason for Jericho returning, to also keeping the attack a secret from Dorothy from the last episode, to even her interaction with Julian and how she totally laughs off and disregards his comments, insinuating that what they had before was a friendship after he shows her how to smoke weed. And while her feelings are not all the way unjustified, Leanne isn't taking any responsibility for her involvement in anything. Instead, just like getting high on weed, for the first time we're seeing her go through a little bit of a power high. Because as I predicted a few weeks ago, we learned that the homeless kids are indeed fellow defiers, deserters, just like Leanne, and they save her from the attack by the other cult members from the block party, and they want to protect her and possibly become just like her. And we see by the end of the episode, they're just casually walking into the Turners' property and talking only to Leanne, completely ignoring the Turners. And Leanne, instead of learning from the sins of her former captors, is instead repeating the same mistakes and using her knowledge and power for control, the same way people like her mother used to do to her. But essentially, what I think this newfound power for Leanne is setting up for her to do is have her feel a little too confident now in her own self and her little army of misfits, that she'll become blind to a threat she doesn't even see coming, like perhaps Isabel, the reporter from Dorothy's Job who Leanne has already made an impression on in the last episode, possibly digging up some info on Leanne's past and using it to maybe get her away from the Turners just long enough for the cult to strike while she isn't around, and being exactly as Sean told her in the basement about not taking the cooking show job for himself, and that is that pride comes before the fall. And we're going to see that happen to Leanne by the end of the season. We also get to see more of Dorothy slowly chipping away at the truth behind all the madness going on in her life. Nancy accidentally mentions Sean's old stint on the cooking show, which was during the same time of Jericho's death, that Leanne, of course, has blocked out from her mind, and she's totally freaking out because she literally has no recollection of this time period in her life. But with her journalistic instincts, I suspect this is something that she's not going to let go of, and I wouldn't be surprised if this season's cliffhanger is Dorothy rediscovering the truth behind everything and what really happened to Jericho, or at least suspect that something bad happened, and it could be the big and final storyline for Season 4, which we know is the final season. Either way, this was a fun episode, interesting camera work as always, and good tension. I'm intrigued as to where we're going to end up for the final, few episodes of this season. But yeah, this has been my review for Servant Season 3, Episode 6, and if you want to stay up to date on all future episode reviews or movie news in general, well, stick around and consider subscribing to the channel because I'd love to have you along for the ride. But until next time, this has been Millennium Movies, and I will see you all very soon.